speak about my responsibility in regards to this House, because indeed, Madam Speaker, there is a lot that we have to look at in terms of reviewing this center of democracy of this great country and the highest court of the land, where we legislators have to deal with the issues which relate to the way in which we organize society and we manage the affairs of our people. So, Madam Speaker, I'm humbled to have been granted the privilege of serving the citizens of my beloved country for another year. I'm heartened by the positive outpouring of support from members of both sides of this honourable House, as together we move our people from poverty to prosperity during what has been a difficult year for Jamaica and the entire world. My presentation on this, my 32nd occasion addressing this honourable House, will focus primarily on the strides we have made using innovative techniques to rebuild our industry, which has been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, it is a great privilege to be elected as a representative of the people and to be given this tremendous responsibility of building forward stronger our nation's key industry, tourism. I therefore begin by thanking God for blessing me with the health and strength to provide the leadership required to fulfill this role with much success. It is an additional privilege, Madam Speaker, to serve as leader of government business and Minister of Tourism. I thank the Honourable Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, for placing his confidence in me in both capacities in this House of Representatives. I also thank you, Madam Speaker, the clerk and the committed staff of this honourable House for the valuable role you play in so ably steering our nation's parliamentary affairs. I would like to thank my colleague ministers, their staff and public bodies, especially those whose work directly impacts the tourism sector. We all work together in the best interest of Jamaica, even if we view things from different perspectives. I also extend special gratitude to the spokesman on tourism, Senator Allen, for her conscientious contribution with the task assigned to her. Permit me, Madam Speaker, to thank my permanent secretary, Ms. Jennifer Griffith, who has served me for the third iteration as Minister of Tourism, and the dedicated team within the ministry and its public bodies, as well as the chairpersons of the respective public bodies, their board members, and their executive directors. To my own personal staff, both here in Kingston and St. James, I wish to acknowledge your contribution and thank you for your assistance. Special thanks must be reserved, I think, for my constituents, East Central St. James, my 3 councillors, my management team, and the entire group for the support they have given me to elect me for 5 consecutive terms with the largest majority in the history of the constituency in this time of 4,200 votes. A key project, Madam Speaker, that we have worked on in the constituency, besides our flagship education program, which has seen thousands of students from the constituency becoming lawyers, doctors, nurses, and so on over the last 21 years, is now the establishment of a new housing development in the Rhine Park area dubbed Edmond Ridge Estates. And we have completed now, in collaboration with the Housing Agency of Jamaica, and Prime Minister broke ground for it. And Prime Minister indicated to them that it probably should have an interesting name. And I don't think anybody... No, that's Rhine Park. No, Grangepen is to come. And we'll talk about that. But Prime Minister, we want to thank you for the support on behalf of the constituencies that you have given to us in enabling housing development in 2 big areas. One being, of course, the Friendship Housing, which is providing some 3,500 units when completed, and now the Edmond Ridge Estates, which will have 784 units when completed. We also have the Grangepen Community Development Project, Prime Minister, that now 535 households in Grangepen community will see infrastructure upgrading and development. We are excited about the water development program, and that's been a promise that I've made to the constituency for the last 20 years. Finally, Madam Speaker, the tank has been built for 380,000 gallons in Somerton, and then for gravity feeding and the distribution to all the communities, all the way down to Irwin Heights, and indeed all the way to Johns Hall. This will be a game changer in terms of providing this vital commodity to the people of the constituency. Finally, on the issue of water, the northern side of the constituency that has had problems. With the advent of Edmond Ridge, another tank has been built for some 400,000 units to enable the entire Rhine Park area, Barrett Town, Lilliput, the entire area of you want some more of it, you know? the entire Rhine Park area, Spot Valley and Palmyra and Paisley will now have water as a result of that development. Madam Speaker, I'd like to also really bring my Ed's tulips into my commendation. This is a set of young people. Ed's tulips. Tulips? Tulips, yes. A set of young people who have dedicated themselves to care for the elderly and the indigent in the constituency. And they have been moving around dealing with care packages that have assisted greatly during this difficult period of the pandemic. And I want to bring special commendation to them on this very important occasion. I want also to specially thank the President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Mr. Clifton Reeder, and a key team of young entrepreneurs in the sector who have banded themselves together during this difficult time to ensure that all the arrangements to keep the sector together. And I want to indicate this, that the tourism sector has never been more united and never been more cohesive than they are today as a result of the action and activities of these people. And I want to commend them greatly for it. I also want to thank Omar Robinson, the former president, who had 4 terms. And in my 3 iterations, he's been president and has done well for it. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I cannot but mention my family. My wife and my son and grandchildren who have been with me through the difficult times and the good times and the bad. And here we are, thank God, another year to stand before you and to give account for my stewardship. Madam Speaker, we are fully cognizant of the fact that we are pressed for time, and as such, I intend to go through this critical presentation with detail and precision. I will first highlight the realities we continue to face because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, to outline the measures we have implemented to seamlessly tackle the pandemic. Thirdly, to detail major policy initiatives which are and will continue to reap success with and without COVID-19. And fourthly, to give a quick synopsis of the way forward. The global perspective, Madam Speaker, indicates that COVID-19 virus was in early December 2019 become a feature of global health arrangements. Since then, it has been had a devastating impact on economies across the globe. And it's the first of its kind, as is well known, to have dealt with every single country, 220 countries of the world simultaneously, with travel and tourism being hard hit, and indeed the hardest hit of all industries in the world. Madam Speaker, it has undoubtedly been the worst economic and social crisis of our lifetime. Governments across the world face tough choices on how to balance livelihoods and lives, which required unprecedented action and global cooperation and collaboration. According to figures just in from the World Travel and Tourism Council, Travel and tourism sector suffered a massive loss of some $4.5 trillion in 2020. Madam Speaker, this is coming from $9 trillion earned in 2019, and tourism then made a contribution of some 10.4% to GDP. What we saw was a reduction, therefore, of 49%, the hugest reduction in the contribution of any sector to global economy in the last 100 years, I am advised. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we had 62 million jobs lost. Tourism then had some 334 million jobs. It came down to 272. And the young people, women, and the small and medium enterprises were the main casualty in this. So that what we're seeing is that the impact of COVID-19 on tourism has been hardest on the poorest and the most vulnerable. So, Madam Speaker, we found that domestic travel seemed to have not been as affected as deeply as international travel, because while international travel fell by some 69.4%, domestic travel only fell by 45%. And that is understandable, especially because of the health protocols and others that have been heavily utilized. The temptation is for the avoidance of international travel, but to stay within your borders and to enjoy the benefits of those experiences. In the Caribbean, we found that we lost some 11 million visitors over the period, a 65.5% reduction from the 32 million visitors that came in 2019. And, Madam Speaker, we found also that we lost jobs. Some 1.2 million jobs were lost in the Caribbean, and more than 53% of the foreign exchange generated in the Caribbean as a result of tourism was lost. But perhaps the most devastating impact in terms of tourism was from the cruise sector, where in fact we saw the total elimination of cruise during the last year and zero cruise arrivals in destinations that were highly dependent on tourism, with GDP dependencies of up to 95% in the case of the U.S. Virgin Islands and 90% for Antigua and Barbuda. The fact is, on the local scene, Madam, we lost, and this is really the painful element of it, because up to February 2020, Jamaica recorded 6% growth in stopover arrivals, and we were on a trajectory to achieve double-digit growth in that year. However, the tourism sector, like many others, was devastated by the pandemic, which led to the closure of our borders as of March 21, 2020. So the borders shut, and what that meant was zero arrivals of both cruise and stopover tourists. What it meant also, Madam Speaker, was a loss of 130,000 jobs, as tourism employed some 170,000 directly and pretty close to 300,000 indirectly and induced. So the effect of the pandemic was felt throughout the economy, as tourism's interconnectedness with other industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, entertainment, banking, and utilities, has resulted in wide-scale financial fallout. Utility services, such as the National Water Commission and the JPSCO, were among those that suffered as a result of the fallout from this tremendous squeeze from the tourism contraction. So, Madam Speaker, the extent of the fallout overall is captured in the following figures, which I will just outline to you very briefly. So for the fiscal year that we, 2019-2020, in fact, the government of Jamaica lost direct revenue from tourism sector of $46.3 billion through the following: airport charges, guest accommodation room tax that we call GAT, general consumption tax, GCT, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, and you know we earned some $6 billion from the Tourism Enhancement Fund in 2019. All of that went zero. Then we had cruise taxes and other government-related taxes. So with the reopening of our borders then in June 15, the total amount of stopover arrivals for March 21 was approximately at that time 464,348 visitors. And of course, no cruise. With the anticipated number of arrivals of 2.8 million stopover visitors for the period, April 20 to 21 period, we estimated that we would earn $199.4 billion, roughly $200 billion. However, with almost 500,000 visitors coming in the period, the expenditure was only $44.7 billion, which means that we had a visitor expenditure loss, surplus of $154.7 billion. What that meant is that the money that would normally go in the pocket of the little man in Ocho Rios and in Montego Bay, that would go to the supermarket to buy the things for the villas, that would go to the taxi drivers, and all of the players in the industry, that is what this $154.7 billion loss is. Of course, in addition to that would be the expenditures for international services and for marketing and air services as well. So what we did find in the end is that we were down the tube to the tune of some 62.6% decline in our revenues overall. And for the foreign exchange, which was critical, we generated only $1.3 billion, coming down from $3.7 billion in 2019. And that tells the story so loudly, as our own Minister of Finance indicated in his budget presentation, with regards to the fact that the fallout from tourism will put back the economy for 30 years if we don't restore it, and restore it fast. And we'll be talking a lot about restoration over the next few minutes. So, Madam Speaker, all is not lost, because while we painted that picture of what happened to us in 2020, the good news is beginning to happen. So that starting in January, we had 40,000 visitors. In February, we had 40,076, small increase, but increased. And then in March, 69,000 visitors. And here the good news, even better, that so far for April, we have gone 50,000 in 18 days. In 18 days. And what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that even though in 2020, the first 3 months was very, very strong, we earned some $720 million US then. In this recovery program, so far, we have gone 360 million up to the middle of February. So the general outlook for the upcoming fiscal year, Madam Speaker, is quite positive, as we expect to realize growth of 122% on earnings. Sounds big because we're coming from you know where, right? And 236% for arrivals. Of this number, we hope to welcome 1.043 million stopover visitors, which is a 117% increase over last year's stopover numbers. Jamaica should have up to 60% coverage of the United States market by the end of May, and we anticipate some 800,000 airline seats which will become available for the upcoming winter season, and that is approximately 70% of the level that we experienced in 2019. And that is a significant thing that if I was going to clap, I would clap for that, because that is growth that is looking forward. My colleague, Minister Nigel Clark, noted the extent of the fallout, as I indicated before, and indeed indicated to you that we lost 2.5 billion US dollars, which for him would set back the country for 30 years. So what was our response, having such a difficult year and having to look at the worst pandemic that the world had seen in over 100 years? Madam Speaker, the historical tourism has been known to show strong ability to adapt. Resilience is the word that is used to describe the capacity of tourism to bounce back, and to bounce back faster and swifter than any other industry, and then to grow exponentially. So historically, then, as we seek to recover and prepare for the future, we enhance new strategies, a new orientation, and a new ethos that will ensure that the tourism sector becomes more resilient, sustainable, inclusive, and competitive. I am confident that a strong multi-level response and partnership will help us to achieve full recovery. Madam Speaker, our leading-edge COVID-19 Tourism Recovery Program has allowed for the seamless and safe reopening of our borders. Just to give a brief recap, as far back as January 2020, Madam Speaker, when the first wave of the coronavirus was reported in China, we set up a coordinating team and eventually announced measures to be adopted for all tourism entities to minimize the spread of the virus. Our recovery process, led by a recovery task force, was guided by a 5-point recovery strategy, which has managed by a multidisciplinary task force. And I want to here pause and to mention one individual, John Biles, who led that team with a fabulous group of young people, and today is still driving an important element that I will speak about later on. So we developed this multi-task force and had 5 critical pillars for our recovery. The first was to develop robust health and security protocols that will stand local and international scrutiny. Second, the training of all sectors to manage protocols and new behavioral patterns moving forward. The third was to develop strategies around COVID-19 security infrastructure, that is the personal protective equipment, masks, infrared machines, etc., and all the COVID-compliant equipment and infrastructure arrangements that were to be put in place. Communications with the local and international market about our reopening, as well as about the methods that we employed. And indeed, Madam Speaker, Jamaica is the most inserted country in the Caribbean in the international dialogue on tourism today. And we are very proud of that. A staggered approach to reopening and managing risk in a structured way. Specially assigned staff from TPDCO, who are part of the Stakeholder Risk Management Unit, along with members of the COVID-19 Resilient Corridor Management Team, of which I spoke of, John Biles, have been closely monitoring the implementation of these measures to ensure strict compliance. Our protocols, which receive global endorsement of the World Travel and Tourism Council, complemented our highly successful resilient corridors to the north and south of the island, designated to keep workers, communities, and visitors safe by opening an area that we have the capacity to effectively monitor and manage. And I want to make the point that much of that idea also came from our discussion with the Prime Minister. And every time I speak about the resilient corridor, I mention him because he was very instrumental in helping us to define that key area that we could manage and to create a bubble so that visitors who come into Jamaica could be essentially outside of the possibility of spreading infections to the wider community. So, to date, there have been few known cases of transmission of COVID-19 along the resilient corridor, which is proof that our highly regarded health and safety protocols are working, and testament to the high level of compliance by tourism workers. This is why, internationally, Jamaica is regarded as a leading example of how to create a safe and seamless travel experience for visitors. More recently, we named a special task force to spearhead the efforts to boost COVID-19 testing capacity. And I wanted to make a quick point about that, Madam Speaker, because when the United States and Canada and our main partners required that their nationals should not return unless they had a negative COVID test within 72 hours, we were able as a destination to respond and to respond quickly so that not a single visitor was stranded in Jamaica or had to be provided with special arrangements at hotel because our testing arrangements were adequate and in place in record time. Madam Speaker, sustainability is integral to the recovery process. So we seek to take the offensive and to seize opportunities in this crisis. We are implementing strategic measures to rebuild a product that is safe, equitable, and generates economic opportunities for more Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, none of this would have been possible without the strong and effective leadership of our Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. And we must also thank our Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton, and his team, who have functioned under arguably the most stressful time ever in an already challenging public health system. I want to pause then to acknowledge and reaffirm our appreciation for their hard work, especially as we seek to keep the Jamaican economy afloat whilst battling COVID. Madam Speaker, we must continue to provide much-needed support to assist our small and medium tourism enterprises within the industry who are reeling from the effects of COVID-19, including our artisans, our craft vendors, our transportation providers, restaurants and eateries, bed and breakfast, and our farmers. TPDCO is willing to waive, and I must make this point, that in addition to providing these supports, we looked at how we could support our SMTEs by waiving fees and licenses, and some 47 million Jamaican dollars of fees were waived by the TPDCO for our small and medium enterprises. So within the past few months, we have built out a robust support structure for enterprises within the sector. The Tourism Enhancement Fund has collaborated with key partners to create several initiatives geared towards helping SMTEs retool and rebound from COVID-19, including the provisions for resilience packages, loan facilitation, and of course the Ministry of Finance and Public Service grants, as you know, the SET and the BEST grants. The training of tourism workers, and I want to make heavy weight of this Prime Minister and Madam Speaker, because the essence of tourism is the workers. The quality of our workers help to define us. Their capacity for innovation and their capacity to pivot enables us to be responsive to every incident and everything that happens, and puts us in a position where we can be set aside as a destination of reference for safety, security, and seamlessness. So this is why it's important that we establish the Jamaica Center for Tourism Innovation, which is a division of TEF, which we asked specifically to facilitate the development of Jamaica's valuable human capital and supporting innovation for the industry. So we begin with this initiative in 2018, and it has facilitated the certification of some 7,194 persons to date. And it's the largest number of tourism workers that have ever been trained in the history of Jamaica. This has been made possible through strategic partnership with HEART, with the Universal Service Fund, the National Restaurants Association, and the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute. Madam Speaker, the JCTI is taking steps to move most of its certification programs online to benefit from the new technologies, and the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute is in the process of upgrading its website to accommodate more online presentations. I must say to you that during COVID, we were able to train and certify a number of workers in the food and beverage executive program, in the Certified Hospitality and Housekeeping Executive Program, the Certified Hospitality Trainers Program, the Certified Hotel Concierge Program. In addition, 45 candidates have also taken their exams for the Culinary Arts certification offered by the American Culinary Foundation, and so they get the designation of ACF. And some of the best-known chefs in Jamaica have qualified and graduated from this program, including Chef Lumley, who boasts of it every day. Finally, the first cohort of the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program, HTMP, rolled out in the 33 high schools across Jamaica in concert with the Ministry of Education, who completed their course of study. And now, Madam Speaker, they have the designation of being associate degree in customer service and are ready to take up entry-level jobs in tourism. This is very important, Madam Speaker, because what we have done is to improve the stackable credentials of the workers of the tourism industry. And there are those who complain that our workers are getting the lower paid jobs in the system, and we agree. But the way to change that paradigm is to train, and upgrade their skills and certify them. Because if you are certified as a worker, you can be classified. And if you are classified, you can be remunerated according to classification, and that will change the labor market arrangements in Jamaica and improve the value added in the employment situation. So our solution is not to quarrel about work permits and to say this worker is not and that worker is not. Our solution is to train, qualify, and certify our workers so that they can be mobile and they can have portability. Portability means that they can go anywhere in the Caribbean and the rest of the world and be recognized as sous chefs and as certified culinary artisans. And that's the important element that we're bringing to this whole process. Investment, Madam Speaker, the challenge we have faced in our industry is our investment climate. And the truth is, and I'm very proud to say that the investment climate for tourism is positive. Madam Speaker, our goal to dramatically increase the number of hotel rooms is still on track. And I can safely say that 90% of the planned investment are still on target. Over the next 2 years, we will see the development of over 7,000 new hotel rooms, providing more than 20,000 new part-time and full-time jobs in the region, providing a direct financial input in the economy of $1.5 to $2 billion US. That, Madam Speaker, and I want to emphasize it because I'm going to detail the hotels that are coming on stream now. No other country in the Caribbean, arguably the Americas, can boast this level of foreign direct investment during a pandemic such as we are. And we see that as a major vote of confidence in Jamaica. Last week, Wednesday, an investor flew from Spain to have lunch with me to announce that they are going to build 715 new rooms at Richmond in St. Anne. and 280 new rooms for a high-end brand that they have called Dreams. A total of some $350 million US to add to the budget. A week before that, Prime Minister met with the leaders of Princess Hotel to conclude the arrangement for a 2,000-room hotel in Green Island, Westmoreland, for $580 million. H10 is concluding another 440 rooms in Trelawney and the former Duns River and Runaway Bay properties, which are now acquired by the Sandals Resort International, will see the expansion of the Sandal brand in that area to create a Duns River 1 and a Sandals Duns River 2 and Beaches Runaway Bay, a total of 950 new rooms that they're going to be building currently. Over $300 million where that is concerned. I mentioned Secrets already about their St. Anne, and I mentioned H10. Wyndham in Kingston here will complete their 300 rooms, and the Rock Hotel, 168 rooms here in Kingston, and Sandals Negril will add another 75 rooms to their beaches. Madam Speaker, we have never seen this level and this appetite for investment in Jamaica and tourism during a time as difficult as the COVID period. And I say the government of Jamaica and Prime Minister Andrew Holness is doing it right.
Confidence.
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 Madam Speaker, important also to note that the Harmonization Group is also about to continue the work on the Harmony Cove tourism project in Trelawney during 21-22 fiscal year. And this development will include several luxury hotels, world-class golf courses, a luxury spa, marina facilities, commercial development, private residence, and other amenities, and that is expected to be some $7.5 billion in investment over a 10-year period. I did not include that in the 1.5 to 2 billion that I spoke about earlier, nor the 6,700 new rooms that I mentioned earlier. This is incremental. This is addition that we can look forward to over the next few weeks. Madam Speaker, we also are engaged in ongoing discussions now with local and international investors in relation to a stream of small, medium, and large hotel products spanning hotels, villas, attraction, and other amenities. And I want to make mention of the fact that St. Thomas, and I was planning to treat with it better later on, but I know that time is of essence. Now I'll come back at the closing to talk about St. Thomas in full and to deal with the new destination that we are developing there. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister and Minister Montague have overseen billions of dollars in expanding the island's two major airports, developing beach facilities, regenerating heritage sites, building and upgrading piers, supporting craft development, and constructing a national highway network to seamlessly connect tourists, hoteliers, businesses, and markets in quick time. We continue to create an enabling environment to foster increased investment in tourism as we build forward stronger together. The tourism industry is an ecosystem that must be ready to return to the pre-COVID-19 earnings of $3.7 billion, which will allow us to bring back thousands of displaced workers and to build the future. Madam Speaker, we recognize that currently some of our partners and stakeholders are experiencing some cash crunch difficulties, and we recognize that there is the need for us to look closely at how to deal with the credit arrangements, especially to deal with those entities that may be suffering what we call a heavy drainage of cash as a result of the pandemic over time. So we are currently mapping out with players in the private sector capital markets a potential contingency plan to make funding available for the recovery of the tourism sector should there be any systemic COVID-19 related issues with their existing financial arrangements. I think we recognize that the banks have been very responsive. They have been forgiving debt in some instances and are reducing payment requirements, principals. They have foregone payments on principals and just accept payments for interest. And they have been rolling over to facilitate these entities. So these, of course, are discussions which we will continue with the stakeholders and our Minister of Finance with the view of establishing some special vehicle to assist if needed. Madam Speaker, the tourism continues to attract awards. A leading family and cruise wedding destination, world-leading travel resort, Ian Fleming catching the eye of the world, Round Hill catching the eye of the world, the Sanders team of its various all-inclusive products catching the attention of the world. We have the beaches being the world-leading resort area, and of course, the island routes getting awards for various things. Madam Speaker, in a pandemic, when very little is happening across the world, Jamaica continues to have the attention of the main players and remain top of mind in the marketplace. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica Tourist Board, and I want to say this very loudly without any fear of contradiction or any equivocation whatsoever on my part on this, that the Jamaica Tourist Board is easily the most efficient tourist board in the entire Caribbean. When you look at what the revenue that it generates against the budget that we have to manage, the rate of return is in hundreds of a percent. And I'm very proud of the JTB and the work that they have done over the years. As a matter of fact, they are now looking at building back in a very strong and powerful way. And those of you who saw the ad, have you seen the new ad? Sure. Rediscover Jamaica campaign and the Escape to Jamaica campaign. Sure. CNN. Very impressive. And I tell you, we have already gone to the extent to which we have moved from the 60% coverage that we were planning for the US in May to 80% coverage as a result of the ads that have started in those days. We're excited about the prospects of moving forward, Madam Speaker, and to develop new and exciting products utilizing technology. And technology is going to be a big way forward in terms of our marketing arrangements, the connectivity efforts as we use platforms to drive content into destinations and places that hitherto would not be seeing Jamaica's images. But at the same time, it allows us an opportunity to provide virtual experiences to visitors. And one of the things that the Tourist Board did, which stands out in the region last year, was to have a virtual wedding for 100 couples across the world from Laughing Waters in Ocho Rios. And the result, of course, is that we said to you, once the season of pain has passed, Jamaica is your place to consummate. Because we married you virtually. So come here and do the rest. So, and that, Madam Speaker, has opened the door for virtual tours of Jamaica. And we have been able to provide short tours of places like in Duns River Falls, the Blue Lagoon in Portland, or 7 Mile Beach, exploring Montego Bay and the rustic luxuries of the South Coast. So virtually, people have been walking through those places, waiting for the moment when COVID-19 allows for them to come to Jamaica and experience it in a physical way. We had also the Jamaica product export virtually, and we have been able to have virtual regional sales blitz all over the United States. And we are excited about the prospects of continuing in utilizing these important cognitive systems as a means of driving our marketing and to get greater connectivity in the markets of the world. The Jamaica Vacations Limited Prime Minister has taken responsibility for cruise. And I want to very briefly say to you that cruise has had the highest casualty of all the tourism activities in our region and in Jamaica. Because as of March 20, 0 cruise arrivals have been in the country and $0 have been driven by cruise activities. The good news is that notwithstanding the problems with the CDC and the no-sale orders, that are currently in vogue, we have been working through with the cruise to innovate and to create new ways of ensuring that Jamaica gets back into the cruise business. And the good news is that come August of this year, Norwegian Cruise Lines will begin a two-program itinerary out of Montego Bay, home porting in Montego Bay. And this is the first time that a major U.S. carrier is going to be home porting in Jamaica. We have had home porting with AIDA from Germany. And the importance of home porting is that it offers opportunity for supplies. It enables jobs. It provides purchases of not just fuel, but also water. But critical to it all, it also provides accommodation for stopover visitors who come into the island in order to get their
Madam.
15 minutes.
The member's time for speaking has expired.
Madam Speaker, I ask that you allow the member to continue his presentation to completion.
For
the member to continue his presentation until he is completed.
give us a
15 minutes. The 15
presentation
Just
this
15
afternoon.
minutes? 15 minutes, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is that the Speaker be allowed 15 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We recognize the process and that we have 45, then 15, and if by reason of strength we move on, we move on. But RCL will commence home porting in Jamaica on the 1st of August, and they will have two itineraries. One which will stop in Ocho Rios and then head on to Cancun, to Cozumel in Cancun, and then to Roatan in Honduras, and come back. And a second itinerary, which will again go to Ocho Rios, but go to what we call the ABC Islands. So what we will have is that they will originate in Montego Bay, go to Ocho Rios, stop in Ocho Rios, provide support in the Ocho Rios area, and then head on to the other. But they will be taking all their supplies here in Montego Bay, and that's a good thing. As a gesture of goodwill, Madam Speaker, and this is something that I wanted to mention about RCL before we go to the other home porting arrangement that we are discussing that is led by the Prime Minister himself, is that RCL has given to Jamaica $1 million for us to utilize in the recovery program from COVID-19. But it's not only Jamaica, because they are also giving to DOMREC. But to move ahead of myself a little bit, since I'm talking about RCL, is that to show their concern about the region overall and our recovery program in general, I chair the Global Resilience and Tourism Crisis Management Center. And from that center, I had a summit with the World Travel and Tourism Council with over 150 tourism enterprises from across the world last week, and had Prime Minister Gonzalez on the call talking about the situation in, and I'm proud to tell you that the first offshot of that is a $500,000 commitment by RCL that was delivered to the Prime Minister today by promise, and the check will be there by the 27th of June. Not Royal, NCL. I said RCL? Well, the CLs. Well, let me get it right. Let me get it right. It's NCL, Norwegian Cruise Lines. And the Norwegian Cruise Lines is the one that's doing the home porting in Montego Bay, just to get it right. And also, it's the Norwegian that has given us the $1 million to assist some of our small players, to buy PPEs for them, to do testing, and for vaccination and other types of COVID preparedness that is necessary so that when the visitors come here, they can feel safe and secure that there's coverage. The other important home porting prospect that we are working with, and the Prime Minister is allowing me to say this because he's really spearheading it, is a very upscale luxury liner called Viking. And the Viking takes 950 passengers only. Top of the line, wealthy and high net worth passengers. And so they are scheduled to start home porting also in August from Montego Bay. But what is significant about that home porting arrangement is that they are going to have a Jamaican itinerary. So they will start in Montego Bay, they will go to Falmouth, then to Ocho Rios, then to Port Antonio, and then to Port Royal, and back to Montego Bay for the next round of the interim. Exactly, and this is something that we've been talking about for a while, Prime Minister, and really want to bring, that Jamaica can be its own itinerary. And we have to look now at how we improve the ports. So we look at Lucy, for example, how we look at Westmoreland, at Savomar, and to also look at Clarendon. So we can have more ports. Port Antonio expansion, and Lucy Nano. So we can have a full itinerary for the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Suffered as it did from the COVID interference. And you know that the TEF generated some $6 billion in 2019. But the Tourism Enhancement Fund has been working on a number of key projects. One of which, of course, is in partnership with the UDC for the Closed Harbor historic, what I call groundbreaking waterfront park for the people of Montego Bay and for tourists. $600 million was contributed by the TEF. We are proud that the park is now substantially completed and ready for opening as soon as the Minister of Health says that we can start our gatherings again. And then we will open that as being the largest and most important beach park in the English-speaking Caribbean. The Artisan Village, another innovation. We spent $750 million to build the first Artisan Village in Falmouth. It is now being themed so that you will have elements of it relating to the River Muma from Martha Brae. You have elements of it that deals with sugar, elements of that deal with shipping, and elements of deal with all the lifestyle of the Jamaicans living in Trelawney, and particularly in the Falmouth area during the 18th and the 19th and 20th century. It will be something to look forward to because we believe that there must be an area for marketing for the artisan output of this country. It is unwise for us to quarrel that our artisans are not able to produce when we have not been able to provide them with appropriate areas to produce. So the Artisan Village is not just a center for merchandising. By its very definition, it will have artisans in situ, producing on demand, so that a tourist comes off the port in Falmouth with a design, gives it to the artisan. 8 hours afterwards, when he's going back on the ship, he collects his finished product, pays his bill, and move on. And that's what we talk about with Bartlett. And so we are going to have Jamaican food, Jamaican designs, Jamaican liquor, Jamaican hospitality also, because that's a big part of the game. Because what people come to Jamaica for is the warmth and friendliness of the people. And that must be visible and felt in the Falmouth area. So we are very proud of the work that has been done in that area. But, Madam Speaker, we have to spend a minute talking about linkages. and I want to, if that's all I can talk about for the rest of the presentation, I want to talk about that, because tourism in Jamaica has traditionally been driven by what we call the demand side. That is hotel rooms and all the other facilities that foreign investors bring. And we have ignored the fact that tourism does two things. One, it enhances production, but it is a master of consumption. And so to enable consumption, 42% of the expenditure of tourists is on one item, food. So the highest level of consumption by an international visitor is food. Jamaica has the capacity to provide the food that the visitors need. Indeed, when they come and taste our cuisine, and we have that nice cookbook to show you there, it's in your package, right? When they taste our cuisine, they don't want to leave. As a matter of fact, the Jamaican jerk has become an international delicacy now. Everywhere in the world you go, you hear about it. And not only that, we've built products around it, jerk sauce, jerk condiments, and so on. So all the opportunities for us to expand in this area is there, but there is no investment in it. Our farmers have the greatest opportunity to produce the fresh fruits and vegetables that the tourism industry needs. $67 billion of demand has been identified for just fresh fruits and vegetables. And then there is a huge demand for poultry meat, for pork, and for all other kinds of delicacies. And then, of course, on the manufacturing side, there's a demand for $367 billion of manufactured goods that the tourism industry consumes. Of that amount, $367 billion plus $67 billion for agriculture, only fresh fruits and vegetables. Not meats, not grains. And the sad news is that we have only been able to supply 20% of that demand. So the resetting of tourism, what the pandemic has done, is to enable us to take a new look at how we deal with the supply side for tourism. And to begin to have the discussions which we have started, and Minister of Agriculture and I have been having extensive discussion. Out of that, we have developed a special task force headed by Wayne Cummings with Adam Stewart and a number of other key players on it, looking at two key elements. One is to assess the demand. Secondly, to assess the supply. And thirdly, to do an analysis of the capacity of our country to supply on those demands. These three critical areas of study is going to be vital to guide us in terms of where we can go in terms of getting more Jamaicans to be inserted in this lucrative and long supply chain of tourism. We have to change. We have to change the consumption and production patterns in tourism in order to do a vital thing, to increase the level of retention of the tourism dollar in Jamaica. The truth is that at the moment, before COVID-19, we had something over 30 to 40% retention. We have the ambitions to move beyond that and to be in the realm of 50 to 60% retention. In that way, if we earn $4 billion US, 3 billion of that will remain in the pockets of the Jamaicans here for the growth and development of our economy and our people. And that's where we're going. The transformation, therefore, that we seek is not about more people working as low-paying employees elsewhere. It's about our creating value added on the basis of innovation and being able to add more to the existing resources that we have. And I am committed to that process, and we are going to be spending a lot of money in this area in this fiscal year with some of our partners. Among the ideas that we have had is to develop a tourism incubation center. And we're talking with the UTEC, we're talking with the University of the West Indies, we're talking with Hart as well, and we're talking with our bankers because we need funding. Tourism is going to invest in ideas because ideas is what drives experiences and brings value to a destination. And we are satisfied that that's what we sell. It's all about ideas. And we have the young people. So startups are going to be a big part of it. Already, we are doing some things with Exim Bank. We put $1 billion there that enabled a number of persons to have startups in the past. We have also put $250 million at Jamaica National Small Business to assist some of these small players. And now we are working with JCIF and the World Bank, to create a second READY program. The first READY was completed a year and two ago. Now READY 2, that has applied some $40 million to be on lend to small farmers and small entrepreneurs in communities to build out the capacity of communities to provide the demand that tourism brings. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to break there because I'm coming back at closing to finish the other elements that I want to talk about. But I want to make the point that we have provided for you this booklet, which really gives you the way forward, and it outlines the strategic approaches to reset the tourism industry with a focus on the supply side. We are talking to international investors. Every investor who comes to Jamaica now must sit with some small farmer or some farmer somewhere to talk about what kind of supplies are going to be required. Prime Minister, you and I have had this discussion because there's no reason for us to be importing towels and sheet and pillowcases from all over when we can have the facility here and set up the factories here to make sheets and to make towels and to make pillowcases, driving jobs. The building of greater facilities to enable, for example, the agri-processing, so that more chutneys and more jams and more jellies and more fruit punches can be produced right here in Jamaica and supplied to the tourism industry. Madam Speaker, beyond this, there is a need for us to benefit from what I'm developing to become a regional supply hub, where a regional supply logistics hub that Jamaica can produce not just now the agricultural products, not just the marketing skills, not just the domestic and DMCs that we have, but we are also to produce skills where we train and certify and qualify Jamaicans to go abroad and to peddle their wares in other countries. Jamaica has that capacity. One of the cruise lines wants 10,000 Jamaican workers. 10,000. The Maritime Institute is attempting to train some, but we need to expand and grow that. What I'm saying, therefore, Madam Speaker, is that in this iteration of my leadership in tourism, we are going to change the production and consumption patterns in tourism in favor of a larger retention of the tourism dollar for the development of the people of Jamaica. So, we are going to grow, and we are going to recover stronger, and we are going to make Jamaica truly a destination of choice, but more so to provide prosperity for the people of Jamaica. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to call on the Member of Parliament from St. Anne, Southeastern, and Opposition spokesperson on Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Ms. Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, parliamentary staff, Jamaicans, the evening has been long, and I really want to thank you for taking the time and the patience to stay to participate in the sectoral debate, because it is important. So thank you on behalf of myself and the people of Southeast St. Ann. Madam Speaker, there are some significant moments in our lifetime that give us cause to pause and reflect on how we do things, how our actions have been impacting one another, and ultimately, how our country's development and whether or not our approaches are leading to positively change the course of the people's lives we were elected to serve. Since I came to this House 14 years ago, I've witnessed a radical shift within our body politic. No longer are people prepared to wait for solutions predicated on outdated approaches designed 20 years behind 20 years ago, but their understandable impatience for positive transformation to their livelihood for themselves and their families does not tolerate tribal dictations of who did what when, or rhetorical excuses for why after decades their roads can't be fixed, or why they can't have running water or pipes, or worse, why they can't have more money to buy the necessaries they dream of. For my part, I acknowledge my own dissonance to just how strongly these emotions were felt, even in my own constituency of Southeast St. Ann. I was busy doing programs and projects that I thought the people needed, and when the COVID-19 pendulum swung and hit their already fragile socioeconomic lives with a sudden catastrophic blow, their palpable hunger for solutions relevant to their survival showed in their apathetic participation in our democracy. These attitudes weren't unique to Southeast St. Ann, but a reflection of the national frustration which led to only 37% of our electorate coming out to vote, the lowest in our recorded history of general elections. I want to thank God and the people of Southeast St. Ann and Jamaica for teaching me invaluable lessons for moving forward in my representation of them. I also give thanks to my husband, my family, my friends, my Southeast St. Ann team, my colleagues on this side of the House and on that side of the House, whose daily support has sustained and consistently inspired me to unswervingly dedicate my life to the harsh vicissitudes of representational politics. Madam Speaker, this pandemic has had a devastating impact on all Jamaicans, but more so on the masses of our people. And it would be irresponsible of me and all of us if we did not recognize that our ability to sustain ourselves during this period was in large part due to the stable 5%. And even though that is the case, Madam Speaker, I want to amplify the call of the opposition leader and member from South St. Andrew, and to say that there needs to be more fiscal space made available, especially to our working poor, to give them more breathing room so that they can feel less stifled and helpless. You see, the truth is, Madam Speaker, that Jamaica must realign with virtues of humanitarianism. Let me use this platform as well to thank our international community, whose assistance to us has been needed and welcome during this very challenging period. To Japan, to India, Cuba, countries in Africa, Korea, Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, our heartfelt thanks and appreciation goes out to all of you. Madam Speaker, the magnanimity of these countries and others to step forward to assist Jamaica is indicative of the revered respect we hold within the global alliance of nations. However, it really is an indictment that we have had to rely on bilateral acts of friendship for our robust response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This realization should be the catalyst to reverse our obsequious patterns of diplomacy, which have been practiced over the past 4 years, which has been counterproductive to Jamaica's foreign relations history, and if not discontinued, will see the costs clearly outweighing the benefits. You see, Madam Speaker, to make Jamaica and Jamaicans great, we must be friends to all and enemies of none. We must reach out more to add value to long-standing bilateral and multilateral dialogue. We must forge new alliances with trade agreements and reset mediocre ones between ourselves and our international partners. We must act with courage, doing what's in the best interest of our people rather than following like sheep to advance the interest of others with unclear motives which are often disguised as defense of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Madam Speaker, I've had numerous opportunities over the past year to speak about our recent acts of servile diplomacy. So rather than revisit history to repeat myself at great length, I want to use this opportunity to focus on foreign trade, which with the right policies provides the greatest opportunity for our citizenry to improve their wealth and quality of life, Madam Speaker. You see, we have to go beyond resilience. Madam Speaker, Jamaica needs to go beyond a reactive response. To that extent, there needs to be resilience